Back in 2009, I lived in an apartment located in one of the most dangerous neighborhoods in LA. I had to move there after my business had gone under. I still remember the exact balance in my bank account before moving there. I had $1,200.33 in my name. I was practically broke. I kept to a strict schedule while living there. It took 20 minutes to walk to my job. I had to get there by 8 a.m. I punched out at 5 p.m. and could be home by 5:30, the latest. The reason why I stuck to my schedule so punctually was because I didn't want to get shot. I kid you not, I heard at least 2 to 3 gunshots per week while I lived there. Anyway, once I got home, I had to fight boredom for a few hours before I went to bed. I owned nothing at the time. I didn't have a TV, paying for a cell phone was out of the question, and thus the radio was the only source of entertainment, back to the early 1900s, I guess. This is what I did every night. I would tune into a sports radio channel, put a chair right next to the window, and stare at the narrow alleyway between my building and the one next to it. The sad thing is, the building next to ours was so much taller that I couldn't even see the moon unless I timed it perfectly when it was overhead. But going back to the alleyway, it was a dead-end alleyway, a perfect place to shoot up or sleep. Hence, the only people who frequented the area were either the homeless or drug addicts. It was never a pretty sight, but I was so bored out of my mind that even watching druggies was better than staring into the nothingness of an empty room. And then there was this one night. It must have been about 3 weeks since I had moved there. I saw a homeless dude roll a cart towards the end of the alleyway at around 9 p.m. I was just watching him from the 3rd floor when suddenly the man disappeared. You know what? Actually, it'd be more accurate to say that he looked as though he fell into and through the ground. And here's the kicker. We're talking about a solid concrete ground here. It ain't the sort of thing that just caves in for no reason. What's even more surprising is the fact that the ground looked fine after the man had disappeared. It was nighttime and the alleyway was not well lit, but I could definitely see the ground had not been cracked or had opened a hole in any way. I thought about calling the cops, but then I wondered, what the hell was I gonna tell them? That the ground had swallowed a man whole? Nah, if I had made that call, I would have been arrested for being high on something. So instead, I went to bed. The first thing I did the next morning was to check the alleyway under the morning sunlight. Sure enough, the ground hadn't opened. It looked as normal as it did prior to the homeless man being swallowed by it. For the next 3 months, I saw one more homeless man and 3 drug addicts disappear in the same spot. I tried to warn the first couple of them, but all I got in return was a big F you. Hence, I merely watched as the 3rd and 4th victims were swallowed up by the ground. By the way, it's important to note that not everyone who entered the alleyway disappeared. It all seemed random. I saw 3 more people disappear in the same spot until my 1-year lease was up and I was to move out of the apartment. That said, I do want to mention an additional observation I had made when I watched the last person disappear. I never dared point a flashlight at the spot on all previous disappearances, for the exception of the final victim. It was about a week before I had to move out, and I wanted one final good look since the plan was to leave that apartment and neighborhood forever. So on the final disappearance, I had the flashlight pointed at the druggie who was walking towards the end of the alleyway to shoot one up. The druggie cussed me out and shouted for me to stop pointing the flashlight at him, but I ignored him and did what I had to do to get a good look. Alright, here's the thing. The druggie disappeared the same way as the others, but this last one, I saw an arm and a head pop out from the ground for a split second, then whatever that creature was, it dragged the druggie into the ground with it. The next day, no matter how fearful I was of that alleyway, I just had to see the spot up close and in person. In the morning before heading to work, I entered the alleyway, then walked towards the spot, but stopped some 2 yards away from it. Upon inspection, I couldn't find anything unusual. You know, I didn't know how to feel about the whole thing. Was I supposed to feel disappointed? Or should I have been relieved? Either way, I cautiously made my way out of the alleyway, then went straight to work. I moved out of that apartment not long after, and I also quit my job in that same neighborhood. I can't say whether or not people continue to disappear in that spot since I never went back there again. I also don't think anyone knew or cared. All those who disappeared were people who might as well didn't exist already. Today, I have a great deal of fear of places that remind me of that alleyway. I don't like empty corners, alleyways, or any sort of pathways that come to an end. It's become an obsession of mine to early detect and avoid those places. I can't help it. That's just been my life since witnessing the disappearances. That's just my life now, a sad, anxiety-filled, exhausting existence.